because I want to get y'all out of here so we can go to the lake later and cook out, right? All right. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. Welcome. Welcome. My name is Jason Lee Garcia. I'm here to talk to you about how estate planning can be used as a tool of empowerment, particularly if you own a home, but really, these are unprecedented times that estate planning can be a tool for protections of your families. And how many people are familiar with estate planning here? Okay. So, all right, how many people have their plans in place? Okay, all right. How many people here own homes? Own your home? Okay, how many people own a business? All right, how many of your people who have a family who owns a home, owns a business in your family, right? Okay, how many people How many people have children? Who owns children? I'm call police! Get out of here, you know what I mean? But yeah, with some of these things, so with estate planning, one of the things that, it's for the rich, it's for the wealthy, but really it's not. What it is just having more control of your life as well as while you're alive, but as well as when you pass away, how it goes, okay? So just a little bit about me. I'm from the north side of Chicago. My mother's from the Philippines. My father's from El Salvador. I have my partner who's not here. She's on her yearly family trip. Her name is Carolina Garcia. She's from Laredo, Texas. Her family's from Mexico. She is fluent in Spanish, native. My Spanish is a little broken, but by next year, that'll be fixed, okay? So really, why I got into estate planning. Well, let me bring it back. I've been practicing for 6 years, and I became an attorney. I was doing an MBA in finance and management. I was trying to make some money, but I looked around, and I was working at Northeastern Illinois University, and I'm like, I was in procurement, and I'm getting an MBA. Like, damn, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna move up, make a little extra, maybe hopefully make 6 figures, moving up the corporate ladder, but in public, in a public university, and it just wasn't it. I was sitting like 2 classes away from finishing my MBA because they were paying for it, and I'm just sitting there with all these finance dudes whose uncle is a portfolio manager, and the other one that's owns a bank, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I need something where I can make a decent coin, for my family, and I really need power, for people, for my people, my community. So I took the LSAT. My daughter's mother at the time was like, hey, let's take this LSAT. Let's see what's up with law school. And I got a pretty good score. And then I applied for law school. They gave me a lot of money. And I said, hey, let's go and let's see what happens and go become an attorney. And since then, when I first became an attorney, I was in the cannabis space, looking to make some money in there. If y'all familiar with that, in Illinois 6 years ago, it was like a little big rush. That didn't go too well because it's limited license stay here. After COVID hit, I lost like 4 family members in a matter of a few years. A lot of it, they didn't have their stuff in place. So we're still going through some of that, about dealing with properties here as well as abroad in the Philippines. And some of the inheritance with the children, although we're a pretty solid family, so it didn't really mess us up too much. But since then, I've done some probate cases, and I've seen, the families tear apart, like inheritances and properties and wealth being lost. And it's just a little heartbreaking. I wanted to be an attorney, do some of the good stuff, but then when you hear what a lot of families go through, we take on some of the trauma. Yes, even the attorneys. And as you can see, I'm not one of these. I'm not the regular stuffy attorney. I'm here for Saturday morning. I cooked my breakfast and came here, cut my cartoon short. But so one thing that we committed to do is that we need to make sure that we were talking earlier, like that people are educated on what are the options, how to use the law as a tool of empowerment. Traditionally, historically, law, higher levels of education have been, kept away and left not accessible to the majority of people, the working class, and especially, our communities are, whether you're native to the Americas or when you're an immigrant, me, I'm mixed. So one thing that we believe in is that education is the foundation of empowerment as well as social change. And the social change that we're talking about and what that we're preparing for is this huge shift of wealth that's going to happen over the next 30 years. It's going to be one of the greatest economic shifts of wealth, which what comes with wealth is, political power, and that's why we got to be ready to catch it. Economic power, economic and political power. Without both of them together, our people will never have anything. Everything will be performed. All right. So I know you're familiar with some of the estate planning. Can someone sum it up real quick? What it is? What Bethel? What do you? Like estate planning, what do you think of it? What do you think?
Estate planning is how you help guide the future of your family, especially after you're gone. So like if I passed away, I have a godson, I want to make sure that there's money for him to go to college. I can ensure that by having a trust, by funding the trust. And honestly, I'm not an attorney. I did go to law school, but that's not what I did. I did the JD MBA, but I'm like, I need to make money.
Woo, he's big money.
Yeah. No, so, but the importance, I think everybody alive needs advanced directives, power of attorney.
Yes.
You need to have I just did a land trust yesterday I'm a realtor, so I helped somebody buy a property anonymously, because it's an elected official and he doesn't want to know the business out there. So if you want to have privacy, if you want to have control of the assets post your passing away, if you want to make sure that your legacy continues, I have a friend whose trust is, it's always warm on Tuesday. And that's an inside joke for his family. So when these grandkids are getting money like from that trust, like what's that joke? That's part of your story being transitioned on. It's something very special to that family. So you can name your trust whatever you want. I also had a friend who broke her foot the other day. And she's like, who's gonna take care of me? And that got her thinking, we're all getting older. Who's gonna take care of me, right? I see you've got the directives up there, power of attorney. And I would just encourage everybody to talk to an attorney, because I'm not an attorney, and see what they can do. I don't care if you got $10, you need a trust. And there, it's not, I'm not here to talk, so I'll shut up now. But.
No, I appreciate that. Was very thorough. Beto is someone who has it sounds like you understand the importance of it, and you're adding value to your clients by showing them some of this stuff, as well as you're protecting the family for one thing that you emphasize is when you're gone, right? Anybody else want to put their 2 cents before I get right back to it? Also one thing, so a lot of that we think about when it's gone, but really too, estate planning, one thing that we find, because we work with a lot of business owners and homeowners and young families, is that it's really planning and organizing you for your life. You're getting and how you can live. There's stuff too, especially for those who don't come from big families, who don't have families. We use different tools like healthcare directives. All right, so traditionally estate planning, yes, it's planning for incapacity and death. You have your wills, your trust, your powers of attorneys, and your healthcare directives. Okay. So like Beto was saying, these things are like your will is used when you pass away, how all of your assets, your inheritance, your monies that your family will inherit, everything is distributed. The trusts are different avenues that you can put in these assets that, whether it's your business, whether it's your house, whether it's your money, your different savings accounts, retirement accounts, investment accounts, how those are controlled and how they are dispersed, managed, things like this, okay? But more than anything, it's just about you getting organized financially, as well as what your priorities are in life. That when you're putting these things together, you want to identify all of your different assets, all your different properties, and then what you think about is what happens when that, who's going to have to take care of it, or who is that burden going to fall on, okay? But over here, like estate planning, I don't really like estate planning because it sounds dry, it sounds real old, it sounds, elitist, so what I like to call, and what we talk about when we talk about life and legacy planning, because that's what really, we want to do, most people want to do, they want to cement their legacy, and this is too, how you can, once you're fully organized, this kind of financial and legal clarity gives people empowerment. So yes, now you can go travel more, you can take another risk, because usually what we do is we combine it with your advisors, whether they're your trusted realtor or your financial advisor, to empower you to, you kind of geo and economically locate where you at, and then you see what you want to do, who you have to take care of when you set your goals, and you're organized, then you can live more free. Especially knowing that if something happens to you, people are going to be okay. Your loved ones are going to be okay. When you're more financially organized, you make better decisions, and it's more than documentation. This is really a map to guide you throughout life. So a couple of things that, and before a lot of you came over here, we were talking about why particularly in the Latino community. So for Latinos in the United States, we have over a $3.3 trillion GDP. So that means that if Latinos in the United States were their own country, they'd be the 5th largest country in the world. I read a figure that in 2023, there was non-US citizen Latinos here contributed $1.6 trillion in the GDP to the United States, which is freaking crazy, Latinas are the number one entrepreneur and business starting community in the country, but unfortunately, and the average wealth or the median wealth of Latino households versus the white counterparts is over $1 million less. That Latino wealth, even though we're contributing more to GDP in the United States, even though we're creating more jobs, they're still growing the population in the United States, even though they're trying to kick us out. The wealth gap is not closing at all. And a lot of that is because, we don't have the proper education how to maintain it. Planning is a part of it. And people lose it. What happens when you don't have a plan? Actually, for those who don't have a plan, there really is a plan. You know what it is? It's called the government. They're gonna take all your stuff when you leave. They'll manage it. But yeah, and then more than just keeping your assets, it is to really keeping families together as well. A lot of times, these and one thing that we do, we like to do is have these conversations, help families have these conversations with other families. What happens if they are in a car accident, if they die, something like this. A lot of times it goes unsaid, unspoken, and then it's too late. And then, the will of the person who passed is not followed to the T. Latinos, we have mixed families in here. We have families, who are overseas or, who don't live in this country and we stay over here. And, when the disputes come, when they left, nobody to speak up. Unfortunately, a lot of times families fight and break up over money, and it's sad. I don't think that's just particular to our culture, but without a plan, unfortunately, that's really what happens. So for us, there's also one thing that might be particular, and we were talking about this earlier, and I'm kind of interested because I want to study this on why don't Latinos talk about death? How come we don't talk about money? Earlier we had some things, maybe because of lack of education, there's something that's taboo about talking about death and sickness. When you talk about it, you invite it into your house. Is there anything in particular that is there a reason that you all can pose that, because we're all from the community over here. What do you think about this? Why do our culture not plan? Mike, what do you think?
Our parents were old school. None of this stuff existed for them. All this information of what to do, when they had a house. All these programs are now. They weren't back then, so nothing for us to discuss. You know what I'm saying?
Well, did you all discuss how do you want me to be buried? And
because since my dad passed away, we definitely asked my mom. We need to know what you want. We need to know everything now, so we don't sit here, like you said, fight with the family and nobody got money and all this other issues and stuff like that. But
yeah, for sure. So it's usually after somebody
passes,
after something happens already, right?
Because you're not prepared. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. But so these are some of the things, so also with that, now I think more things that are happening, so these educational opportunities are coming around. I don't know, over the last few months, there have been less people participating in it, because there's fear in our community to come outside and learn, because there is mistrust of legal systems.
Yeah.
Even time we go to court, even when you have your papers, it's not gonna, a judge is not gonna give it to me or whatever. And trust, even like if I'm not in a suit and super tied up, and usually I put my hair in a little samurai thing, the wife's like, nah, that's too crazy for them today. They don't know you like that.
Right.
But like, if you don't have it and play it and, switch at the times, I gotta take out my fake teeth right now, and be like, hey, you know what I mean? Like you'll, the system does, there is some bias and discrimination in the system. But that's why it's good to have more Latino professionals like Beto over here, myself, there's, and all of y'all who are in your businesses who are, working and taking steps to educate yourselves in the power community.
And I just want to say, like, everybody needs a doctor. You got to go check yourself out. Get that prostate exam. Right? Everybody needs a good lawyer. Have a 1-year conversation with your lawyer. Everybody needs a good financial advisor. I'm a realtor, so I'm kind of in that bucket. But when I sell a house, they need life insurance for what happens if they pass away. My dad passed away 3 years after he bought a house in 1975. But we were in the union and he got some payment and we saved the house. That house, because we had good planning through the union, that house continued to provide for my family for 50 years. We still own that property in Pilsen. And that, even though he passed away, right? Now, thank God for that mandatory insurance that he had to buy, and thank God for that mandatory advice that he got from his union, because we got a lawyer. Now, it wasn't our lawyer, but it was a union lawyer.
Yeah.
And there was a good stand-up dude 50 years ago who made sure that my mom would be set for life.
God bless that dude, right?
Yeah, and I hope he's 100 years in heaven forever. Like, I just love that guy. I know him, but he changed our whole life. From that house, we got money for quinceañeras, for tuition.
Awesome.
When my brother got jammed up, we got 5 months, I got some money for the lawyer.
Yeah.
Because we own the property.
Yeah.
And so, like, the planning isn't just a piece of paper, it's a living document. You want to have an annual review. You want to bring in trusted advisors. And you know what? The cost, like you said, don't fail the plan.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you fail a plan, you plan to fail. You're going to get jammed up. Life happens. You're going to see families pass away, get in car accidents. Our neighbor got sued. He didn't have a land trust, so they put that property into the lawsuit.
Yeah.
They looked at us and said, well, our property is in the trust. So they're like, okay, forget it. They didn't even bother.
It's crazy.
Trusts are important.
Yeah. And I just met Beto over here. Trust, he's not a plant, what he's saying is true. It's right.
Yeah.
And it's just like every single one of us. I mean, this should be like, hey, out of high school or something.
Driver's ed.
Driver's ed. Boom. What do you do when life happens? Because life be lifing, right?
Yeah.
So real quick, I thought we'd talk about it, but hey, what happens without a plan? It goes to the state. Like there's it has to go to court. So it has to go to probate. Things that aren't found, things that aren't claimed go to. There's over $5 billion in Illinois alone in unclaimed property and assets. You know what I mean? Sometimes like there's the process that happens when somebody passes away. If they don't have a will, if they don't have their estate plan, their trust, it goes through court and it's called a probate. And these things can be quite expensive. Like just to start a simple uncontested probate, at the cheapest one, maybe you could get it done for like $2,500. But here in Illinois, it's probably anywhere from $2,500 to almost $8,000 for things that aren't too complex. And hopefully you can get it open and closed if it's not too complex within, probably 10 months, 12 months, for you to put 6 months out to creditors. But I have one active case of probate right now. It's going since 2020 with a family. The assets of property was here, but then there was a will in Costa Rica, and then they didn't tie it up over here. So there's a bunch of people in Costa Rica that this woman hasn't really had a relationship with over 30 years. And then her niece over here, who took care of who took care of her until the day she died, now she's kind of left out of the cold, because they have it's great. It's pretty crazy, it's stuff out of movies and stuff like that. And then the ex-girlfriend comes out the thing and tells me, yo, I got a kid, and it's crazy. But yeah, a lot of it too, like for real, this is when somebody passes away, they have to deal with, there's trauma, there's pain, there's a void that's left in the family. But then to think like, oh damn, now, but the mortgage is still due the next month.
Yep.
if you didn't get your POAs and you don't have access to the bank accounts, the bills are still going. You know, so people are dealing with, you know, trying to get a foreclosure notice, you know, penalties, you know, not asking for how you're gonna pay the medical, you know, the hospitals. You know, it gets stressful and nobody really wants to do it. So you don't really have the proper time to grieve. A lot of times when that happens, it's like, you know, forget it, I'm just let it over here, and then by the time it keeps on going, it compounds, you know, you lose your assets, you know, the house is gone, so the key part of your wealth is gone, you know, and then, you know, it just gets more and more expensive. And then too, and then when it goes to probate, it's public. You know, so all your business is out in the, you know, in the public eye. Anybody can look it up and see it, you know, and you know we don't like that, you know. So yeah, the benefits mainly is, you know, it's peace of mind. It's during your, you know, it's peace of mind of all your assets, what's gonna happen afterwards. But more so too now, this is also about how you live your life. Like that's what anybody know what a healthcare directive is? You know, with the stuff, right? Yeah, so what you
I'm a legal aid attorney.
Oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, hey, what's your name again?
I'm Eva Adams.
Eva
I'm
Adams.
the Center for Disability and Elder.
Oh, hey, good to have you over here, Eva. All right, we're gonna collab on some stuff there. But yes, you know, this is very right key for something, because life is gonna happen. You know what I mean? So, your healthcare directive. Do you want to tell them what it is, Eva? How do you use it in your job? Yeah. Okay. So there's if something happens, like if you can no longer make the decisions for yourself, you know, then you want to, in your healthcare directives, you know, it tells them what to do. If I get into an accident, if I can no longer speak, if I can eat, if I become vegetable. Well, I'm sorry if that's not the proper term, but yeah, if you become paralyzed, you know, anything like this, is like, how do you want that to happen? You know, because, you know, don't leave it to your 12-year-old daughter to decide. You know what I mean, or something like that, or you're just going for freaking, you know, ex-wife or something, you know. But it's like, but yeah, it's really control of how you want your life to play out and what you want to be, you know, what you want to happen, you know, if and when anything ever happens, you know, because this isn't, there is no avoiding this stuff over here. But like I said, we keep it out of court. You know, a lot of things you communicate with your family over there, and you have these things, so you're maintaining your wealth. As well as you're maintaining the family unit and bringing them all together. Okay, so at least while you're alive, you can have these kind of conversations and stuff. Okay. And two, it's also for the protection of the kids. You know, how do we forget about these kids? I forget because my daughter's older and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, like if there's times too, and especially if you have a child who has some sort of special needs, or something like that. You know, this is something where you want to carve out, you know, in your will, in your trust, how to care for them, in particular in a cold world where they might not be sought after. Okay, you know, there's been instances too where you don't have a plan, you know, where nobody knows, like if you, how many of y'all have kids over here? Young kids? Okay, if you were to get hit by a truck today, which God forbid, you know, it ain't gonna happen. But like who would take care of the kids? You know, is there a plan? You know, like would the police know who to contact, you know, and find out who to take care of them, right? Is your sister the best one to take care of them and raise them and manage the estate and everything? You know, and then too, like, if you pass all the kids are minors, you know, at 18 they get all this money, and then what are they gonna do? You know, without the guidance, you know, without, you know, you here to properly guide them. You know, so these are things where estate planning, again, it's really life and legacy planning, is more control of you have in your life and all the different aspects of the things that you value and the things that you've worked your entire life to build. Okay. So yeah, what do you want to do? You want to keep your house, you want to protect the fam, and you want to not pay the government and not pay a bunch of attorneys, you know, except for me, you want to give me some money because, you know, I'm gonna do good work for you. And then you want to shield this also from different creditors, you know, from creditors and from different taxes, okay? Wills, powers of attorney, trusts, advanced healthcare directives, guardianship for minors, and then succession plans for your businesses. All right, we're gonna go through some of these over here. A will is a document that you'll have while you're alive. You'll create a will that directs how you want your assets to be distributed after you pass away. A will, unfortunately, does not keep you out of probate, but once you file your will here, file your will with the court, then hopefully it can help facilitate the distribution of your assets. You have more of a guiding document, and hopefully it is maintained where you can where it knows what to get rid of from your bank account, to your fine china at the crib, to your cars, to your house, and to all of the cash. Okay. There's things that you can include in your will that can avoid some of the costs, because when you pass away, somebody has to deal with your estate. Somebody has to do, the distribute everything. Here in Cook County, we have the need for what's called a probate bond. And so that means that you have to buy a bond for the value of the estate so you can distribute it as accordingly, take care of the creditors, as well as all of the claimants to the estate. Sometimes, and I've seen it where, the person who you had to want to do the estate does not have the proper credit, or they can't afford a couple $1,000s to buy the bond, because they don't have access to the estate, to the assets yet. So the will, although it's great, a lot of it is not alone. A lot of these tools, they work together for the best protection, as well as for the most power to control, what's happening in your life. Okay. Revocable living trusts. This is something that Bethel was talking about. So a living trust is something where you can put, most people are putting in their homes in trusts, into their big accounts. And this is where you name a successor trustee who will, benefit from, or who will manage or control, your different assets that are coming over here. This now in a trust, this avoids probate. What you putting into a trust, especially if it's properly funded and given proper title, that stuff avoids the whole court process. So you're going to save some money over there, and it's more of a smooth transition for the beneficiaries. And then these are where you can lay it out. Hey, if I pass and my kids are in age of majority, they have to go to school before they get their money. Even if that, they have to, do good service, go to church every week, something like that, or be a good role model, or you can really tell, just kind of like you were here, like, hey, don't do drugs, unless it's marijuana, because that's okay. Then that's when you'll get your money. Okay, I'm a former cannabis attorney. I got to throw that in. You can also include the instructions on for what happens if you become incapacitated. For your do not resuscitate. The plug where you want to be. Like my mom, she's so damn proud, and she wants to. And we're Filipino, and so it's like, hey, she wants to be. She's like, no, I want to be sent in a home. In the middle of something. Like, you better stop. You ain't going in a home. You living right back there in the back room. Oh, I'm gonna go to the front room. It's fine. Until we get that coach house that he was talking about. Right? Yeah. So the transfer of death deed is it's an Illinois specific tool that it avoids probate as well. But this one is a tool where you can transfer, you name a beneficiary for your home, and the home passes directly to that person upon death. And what happens over here, this is a great tool for all you homeowners over there, is that the beneficiary gets what's called a stepped up basis on their property. So, like, if you were to I'm sure you're familiar with this one, right, Bethel?
Yeah. So if you buy a property and you decide that you wanted to leave it to your kids, and you bought it, like my dad bought it in 1976. If I ever decided to sell it, I'm not going to pay all the taxes. Let's call it $600,000 on that. When my dad passed it to me, because of the TOD,
yeah,
then the tax base is that whatever I got it the day that he passed away, hypothetically.
yeah.
So you theoretically could go from owing $1 million to owing nothing because you're the beneficiary on the TOD. Theoretically. I'm not the attorney, so don't quote me, but I think you'll.
No, but you got it right on the money. That's it. If you have a property that's been in the family since the 70s,
sure,
you can imagine, it appreciated, and then you have that taxable amount. But rather than transferring it now or having to do without one of these TODs, that difference right there, that gain, that's where you're going to pay that taxes. That plus whatever that person is going to sell it for after that. So with these TODs, once it's transferred, all that stuff goes away. It's right here. You know, it's a stepped up basis.
I can give you a real example, 1714 South Ashland, I'm selling that right now. I'm like, who wants to own it? I've got dad who's had it forever, and I've got son who also grew up in Pilsen, and I'm like, do a TOD. And if you don't want to sell it, don't sell it. But if you do sell it, and you sell it after dad dies, then I'm not going to get over $1 million of appreciation, which is a big chunk of change for your family out the window.
Oh yeah.
This is a simple tool. Talk to your attorney. Say, I'm thinking about getting a revocable living trust. I'm thinking about getting my TOD. Thinking about all that stuff. This is a no-brainer.
At $1 million, you just saved $400,000 on that.
For your legacy, right? Because you did your homework and you were here today.
Here are other types of deeds: joint tenancy with rights of survivorship, as well as the tenancy by the entirety. Tenancy by entirety are really for married couples. The joint tenancy with rights of survivorship and these tenancies by entirety, when your property is titled like this, when one of the title holders passes away, whether it's a spouse or a joint tenant, the shares, the interest goes, it passes on right to the survivor. Okay. Powers of attorney. Powers of attorney is something important that you should have right now and these are something that we've been using in the community as well for, I want to let you know too, like tell your people not this doesn't matter regardless of your status. You know, all of these tools that we can use, because regardless of your status, everybody can own a home here in the United States, right? Here in Cook County, here in Chicago, right? So a lot of these tools, all these tools as well, some of them get more complex where we do qualified domestic trusts and stuff like that for non-citizens. But yes, you know, these are how the tools so you can maintain them and you can hold that power and not worry that, hey, if something happens, whether you're getting sick or not, whether these people are coming and kidnapping our people, you know, that, hey, you know, life can still go on. You know, of course, it's horrible, but hey, you know, at least you know that you have access to your, to the bank accounts, you know, to the bills, to the money, the business, as well as to your home. You know, so the powers of attorney, there's a couple kinds that you have. There's a power of attorney for property and a power of attorney for healthcare. And as they sound, you know, the power of attorney for properties, you get to make decisions, access to the bank accounts, access to the assets. You know, you can make financial decisions for the person that you grant the power, and for the healthcare as well. You know, and you can limit these as well. You know, you can tell me specifically, this is what I want you to do. And these are done while you're alive, okay? You got a good shot of the people over there? My man. Hopefully it's a good stream. All right. Actually, you know what? We're gonna breeze through here for a little bit because I know we got. So, homestead exemption and property tax benefits. This is something where it's just, the homestead exemption, that's protecting the equity in your home up to a certain amount from different types of creditors and stuff like that, unsecured credit cards, stuff like that. But tax planning is a big part of estate planning, because what are we trying to do? We're trying to keep, not only you working our lives to make all this money, but we want to keep it and we want to pass it down to our family. Also, there's different tax planning strategies for as you get older, and who knows how it's going to be, but like that you can move your assets and you know how you hold your different properties so you can qualify for Medicare, you know, Medicare tax planning and stuff like that. So, you know, because that's one of the biggest drains, you know, on the elders, you know, that, and who the heck knows how it's going to be, you know, in the next few years. But tax planning strategies through estate planning and taking advantage of different of these exemptions, like the homestead exemption over here, is to really gonna, you know, lower your tax liability as well as shield your assets from different type of creditors. Okay. Like, you know, like Beto said, you know, like a lot of these things. Hello, welcome. Well, you have my card, but yeah, get an attorney. So what, you know, there's a lot of stuff online. There's freewill.com, there's Rocket Lawyer, you know, there's ChatGPT, you know, there's all this stuff that we can do, and it's changing the way that, you know, we get access to different resources and education. So one thing that we've understood over here at CGG, and like how I want to practice law, is really having that relationship with the community. You know, I want to take it back to the old school where like, hey, I want, you know, the conciliary, the family attorney. You know what I'm saying? Like Beto said, hey, we need a family advisor, we need a family doctor. You know, I think, you know, that's what the future's going to be, at least for humans. when we have so much access to different tools online for $20 a month. You can have ChatGPT write you up a will. I still don't trust it yet, you know what I mean? But I use LexisNexis. It's another legal AI tool, that's coming out there. It's crazy, but you're still gonna need a human being, to keep up with you. Like you said, a yearly, maybe not year. Like we do a 3 year reviews, as well as like for big moments in your life. Like if you get married, if you have another child, if you get divorced, if you buy another property, things come up in life where you have this, like you say, I better say, this is a living document, but this is a living process. This is about always maintaining your organization, of your financial assets, as well as, like when we get new babies and stuff like that, of of who you value, who you do it for, and of course for yourself too. For those who, a lot of people too, aren't having children anymore, are choosing not to get married or anything like that. So, a lot of this is important as well, because especially like something like a healthcare directive or a power of attorney, if something happens to you, you're the one who's always responsible for paying your bills, taking care of yourself. You definitely want to, empower somebody else to help you. What's up, Ben?
Historically, like even in the 70s, it was harder for women to buy property. Now women are buying property at a greater amount. First-time home buyers, single women are 20%, single men are 10%. So women are taking over because they're buying to take care of a family, right? So every process that we do now, and I'm just a realtor, but we always bring in an attorney at the end because you have to have the plan. If God forbid, you're not going to be here. And I just hope that women will take over all of this process because they're the ones that are creating the more sustainable plans. The ones that are, they're doing the homework, right? Obviously, I don't see many of the guys here.
Hello.
Right? So it's not
just working, right?
The guys that are working, right? But it's on you guys,
Damn,
right?
good observation.
It's on you guys, right? Shame on the men to not being in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So remind each other and support each other and go talk to an attorney and get it done because this is your protection for your whole legacy. You're the boss.
Yeah. I think, this is, they say like the women of the Western Hemisphere is supposed to change and save the world. It's on y'all. Yeah, these men ain't shit.
We call it eyeball,
You know what I mean?
right? The president of Mexico is a woman, right?
You know what I mean? Now, there's some good men out there. There's like
There are some good men,
Corey Adams,
but
Jason Garcia.
but I just hope that you guys don't think this is a complicated thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a quick phone call.
Yeah.
And a cup of coffee every other year or whatever with your advisor.
I know we ran out of time over here, but look, I'm gonna give you the QR code. So real quick, so how does it start, right? The first step, no matter anybody, anywhere you go, is about getting organized, getting financially organized. So this will give you a link. It's a 15-minute call. Hit me up, or you can talk to Carolina. If you prefer to speak in Spanish, speak with Carolina. But yeah, we'll just talk about, where you're at, some of the things. And Beto, I love the plug, but if you got $10, maybe a trust ain't it yet. You know what I mean? Like, at least get $100, but, yeah, it's about, first thing is getting organized where all of your assets are, and then you want to identify, we call it a family wealth inventory, assessment. And, you're going to put, all your different revenue streams, your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, your life insurance policies, your properties that you own, your businesses. You want to put all of that together and know where it's at, just in case. One of the main things is like when you pass away, it's like, what the heck did she have? Where did she bank? Where did she have her life insurance policy? Get those things in place, and as well as you want to identify, like think about it, like, hey, if I were to pass away or something were to happen to me right now, who would be the person? Like right now, think about that. Who would be the person who's going to take care of it? And do you trust in their ability? Do you want to put that stuff on them? You know what I mean? So, are they going to be able to handle it? You know what I mean? Without the direction. So think about that. Who it's going to affect, the things you want to leave, and then, from there, that's where your advisors come in. So with this one, what we do is a 2-hour meeting. I'm gonna send you this inventory if you want it, and I'll do this is all for free, because we're here today. But you gotta set up, have that phone call, set it up. Everybody scan it. Matter of fact, you can pass it on to 2 people. Fuck it, pass it on to everybody. We'll do the 15-minute call for October. We're gonna give away the 2 hours. The session, you fill out the inventory thing, You come over here and we plan it. You know, we help you plan it. But then if you want to do it and execute it, then you got to go and fund it. Then you got to pay somebody to do it. You know what I mean? Whether it's us, and we have all of our stuff is flat rate stuff. If people are charging you by the hour and going stuff like that, get the hell out of there. You know what I mean? And make sure no matter where you go, they have follow-ups, because ours is flat rate and it's lifetime. So we have membership stuff over there. So you got to do it every 3 years. Ours every 3-year review, unless something like a big lifetime event comes up. You know, then you want to update, contact your attorney. Yeah, with these attorneys, like don't let, like with your estate plans, a lot of things you do, like whether you could go on freeworld.com, you print it out, you know, you sign it, and then you can leave it right here. You know what I mean? And that's not, that doesn't work like that. You know, that's not a good way to do it. You know, what we do, and what I would encourage you to, when you're shopping and looking at other people who are doing it, like we create videos for you to leave, you know, to your loved ones. We help you with little identity cards, like for your assets or who to call and things, in case anything happens. And also too, we help you facilitate that conversation with your family. You know, if we're still not comfortable talking about that, especially if you have younger family members and stuff like that, okay? But yeah, sign up for this 15-minute call. You know, we'll get you over here. One thing too, like also before you get out of here, because I was telling some folks earlier, like these are also tools that we're using. Like this isn't for the wealthy. At this time, where us as a community we're under attack. You know, there's tools that we want to use to protect your property, because I don't know if you all caught it, but everyone, regardless of status, can own a home over here. All these tools can be used for them. Short-term guardianship tools are great, for people who are, I mean, how many times do we see it every day? Somebody snatched from the young kids, right? So short-term guardianship tool, a power of attorney tool for finance, as well as healthcare stuff is something that's great. And we've been doing some of these for free, like every Saturday in different spots, just it's for mainly for the undocumented folk, because shit's scary right now. Yep. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, every single one of these tools, they're for everybody. Protect your fam, each one teach one. Let's get free, let's build wealth, and let's realize the power that we have with each other, okay? But it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you all staying this long and talking to me. Please, I want to see every single one book over there.